What else? You know, there's another, I guess, aspect of this that seems somewhat different, and I don't know that it's unrelated from how outspoken the kids are, but and I should say the students, but that, and you know, this isn't my this would not be my first choice in terms of how we deal with this issue, but it is, you know, you go with the I guess the opportunities you have. The NRA is becoming somewhat toxic to corporate America.
Yes.
Not totally, but somewhat toxic. And for instance, REI.
Yeah, that
now
was reported.
Yeah, REI basically stopped selling Camelback water bottles, Bell bicycle helmets, Giro ski goggles, because they're owned by Vista Outdoor, which is a broad-based, I guess, like retail holding company or something like that. And they make gun and ammo, or they own gun and ammo makers, and they have a strong connection to the National Rifle Association. And so REI has done that. And we had Dick's, of course, said they're going to stop selling semi-automatic weapons. You have, you know, these aren't going.
So the Dick's thing, though, is even bigger, I'll say, because
Please.
They're one of the biggest guys out there. And not only do they say they're going to stop selling assault weapons, but they raised the age to 21, which then Walmart and LL Bean and others, Kroger and others that sell handguns, no Kroger did that, but in any case, followed that. But the bigger deal was, to me, even than what they did there, is they actually they put out a platform calling for legislators, for lawmakers, to pass a number of reforms, among them the most popular ones, universal background checks and banning assault rifles. And, you know, people, we can pretend that corporations don't have an influence on this stuff, but they really do in history. We know when corporations start pushing for civil rights, because they're, you know, whether it's for the right reasons or not, they're going to lose African American consumers. Things change. The biggest one, of course, in the last 20 years is gay rights. When companies started offering domestic partner benefits and stopped being sort of threatened and felt they didn't have to respond anymore to the threats of you know, these right-wing ghoul organizations like the Family Research Council in D.C., because they realized a generation was coming along, especially the people they wanted to buy their product, you know, and who were different. And that's what this feels like. Because you've seen, you know, airlines, you've seen restaurants.
Speaking of airlines, I mean, the Delta.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, so Delta basically stopped. I mean, the NRA is like, you know, it's one part trade organization, one part Groupon, right? They have
yes,
they have their deals that they make with the gun manufacturers, but to get their member base, they got to offer perks, and I guess one of those perks was like a discount on Delta Airlines, which is,
yep.
I mean, I didn't realize that the NRA got you. Like, I don't get a discount on Delta. I'm a AAA member, and I don't get a discount.
We're one of their hubs here in Cincinnati, and they moved to. But yeah, they do that, and then
they stopped.
I think you're going to mention what Georgia did.
Yeah, they stopped offering this discount to NRA members, and then the lieutenant governor of Atlanta, who is also, I guess, the president pro tem or something like that of the Georgia Senate, said that if the airline did not restore discounted fares to members of the NRA, this is amazing. This is amazing.
How is that not? How is this not extortion?
I mean, this is just
how it's legal.
Like, I mean, Republicans would strike down a $50 million sales tax exemption on jet fuel from its larger tax cut package. Now, look, I got no problem with them not exempting Delta, but to make it for a state to require a corporation to give a discount to a group of private individuals, This is like, it's just stunning to me. Like, I mean,
it's.
I mean, I don't even know. I'm trying to think of a scenario where I would feel like I could even justify this, even if I liked everything that was happening here, even if it was like.
No, I know. That's the way I felt. Was like, I mean, I silently would probably be like, that's awesome if it happened to somebody I didn't like. But I also would realize and state quite publicly that it doesn't seem legal. I don't understand how that's not extortion. I don't understand how the government can say you must enter into an arrangement. Private corporation must enter into an arrangement with this. I guess we still consider it's a joke, but the NRA a nonprofit group with this nonprofit organization, or we're going to punish you. I would think if they just did it and didn't say anything, I would think that lieutenant governor could be sued. I really would.
This is
the legislators can claim. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, in addition to the sort of the questionable legality of it, you got to wonder just like, is this an indication of the effect or the concern that the NRA is feeling about this? Because, I mean, I think like we have yet to, first of all, how many times have we talked about this stuff? How many times have we talked about the NRA? And now we're finding out, this time that they had a deal with Delta, that they had a deal with a bunch of other stuff because people are backing out of this. And
right.
so
I had no idea.
And
I knew they had some deals out there. I was aware of with some companies. I had no idea about that and some of the ones with airlines and that kind of thing.
And of course, now I think the cat's out of the bag. You're going to see people go directly at these corporations and say, you're choosing a side. Are you going to enable the NRA to do what it does? Because every discount you give goes into essentially adds to their coffers for their ability to lobby to have more weapons, to have reciprocity. People can take their handguns across state lines. I mean, all of this. And I think this is going to get more sophisticated. The other element, and we've talked about this in the past, was it took a couple of days, but within a couple of days, we started seeing profiles of the CEO of the formerly Smith & Wesson, now the American Outdoors holding company or whatever it is. And so I know what the CEO of the manufacturer of that weapon looks like. And I think that's a very healthy thing too. If you're going to make your money.
Well, if they can't sort of hide in anonymity, we've talked about this and we've agreed very strongly and accepted this for a while. And frankly, I don't know what to say about funding on the left that doesn't, it should have been plainly obvious. And when you're dealing with the NRA, and I've made this argument privately to funders, as I have here, which is that people needed to know who they were. They were, riding on a reputation, tied to sort of hunting and education about guns, whatever, that has nothing to do with what their mission is today. It really hasn't anything to do with their mission for about 40 years now. And we were letting, the guy who founded the modern NRA murdered somebody. The legal counsel murdered his girlfriend's parents. Like, there's people on their board that openly supported apartheid. There's Ted Nugent. That's a whole category in and of itself. We could go on the whole show about that guy. I mean, the point is that when you look at just the rogues gallery of their executives, their board members, it was sort of like this. It's not difficult if somebody will put the effort in to toxify these guys. People just need to know. And now these kids are sharing this stuff. Again, maybe it's disrespectful for me to call them kids too, so I should call them students. They're sharing all of this, and the rest of us who've been out here doing this stuff, are amplifying it as best we can. And so more people are learning who exactly the NRA is, and they are. That's the reason why, in the end, that they have become so toxic, and that's why you've had legislators back off and even float things, like raising the age to buy assault weapons to 21, which isn't, of course, close to near enough. But the fact that you even had Marco Rubio say he'd support that, and I think was it Pat Roberts of Kansas say he'd support that, and a few others, is kind of a big deal, and that you start seeing sort of, because they start getting worried because they're seeing what's going on with their numbers, and they all know with the election coming in 18, they've got groups that are right out there right now looking to register 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds, realizing that we may have an explosion in voting among that age group like we've never seen before.